gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, is it not?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. He looked good, Coach.
Oh, try it. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Monday in the Quad Cities. Monday, July 31st. Happy Monday to everyone out there watching the show. We do appreciate it. It's been it's fun watching the Open. I chuckle every time. We've been doing this for over 6 months, and people have said to me, hey, are you going to change the Open or freshen up the Open? And every time I hear Andy say at the very beginning, and every time I hear Pat during the middle of it, I'm like, no, maybe eventually we got to refresh or freshen everything up, but those are staples. Always fun to start my week listening to friends give you a hard time. So hopefully everyone had a great weekend. It was a great weekend in the Randazzo household. We're getting ready to go on vacation. So there's that energy, excitement of 4 kids that are excited to travel each and every summer. My wife and my oldest Charlie do an amazing job planning our family vacation. So we'll kind of give you the schedule of what the show looks like coming up in just a little bit, but a little bit of a shorter week this week, and then next week a little bit as well, because we're going to be doing some traveling. I do have to wish my lovely wife a belated happy anniversary. We got to enjoy it with a nice meal at Johnny's Italian Steakhouse. Kind of a staple for us. We went to Cafe San Lorenzo. It's a new Italian restaurant down in downtown Davenport. Try to get in there. It's like kind of a pop-up restaurant down there. It's an outdoor restaurant. We've heard amazing things, but the wait was like 2.5 hours. So we are definitely going to keep it on our list because we saw some friends as we were going in there that were leaving, and they just raved about it. So Cafe San Lorenzo is a rain check that I got to make sure I take my wife to as well. So also my brother's birthday yesterday. I got to wish I guess I have to. I was nice to him yesterday. I guess I don't have to be nice to him today, but happy birthday to my big brother Larry as well. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we appreciate that. Thank you for doing that. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. If you have, we thank you for that. We're also live on X. X has been very good to us, so we appreciate everybody who watches the show, not even now or live now, but throughout the day or the weekend on X. We really do appreciate that as well. And then, of course, we're available on all the podcasting platforms as well. So check out the audio version of the show as well. Get caught up with everything going on here in the Quad Cities and the Iowa, Illinois area. Off the Air with Matt Randazzo every weekday at 10 a.m. Getting our way through the summer and really excited about the football season that's coming ahead. Excited about today's show as well. Coming up in a matter of moments, our good friend Kyle Huesman joins us. He hit the road this weekend. He was out checking out some basketball. A really busy time for basketball recruiting on Friday. We talked to Tom Kakert about the men's side of things. Want to get to Kyle's thoughts on the women's side of things and the targets that they're interested in now. The Iowa women's basketball program, one of the best in the country, obviously, and continuing to build for the future as well. Also coming up in the show, we have my good friend Larry Hawley, our Chicago expert. Cubs are in first place. The Bears rookies and Caleb Williams, I guess, reported already, and the veterans are reporting on Tuesday. So a little Cubs, a little Bears talk as well. And the Big Ten media poll is out for football season. We'll kind of talk about that a little bit as well on today's show. We mentioned this week, coming up this week, we're going to have a best of show tomorrow and Wednesday. No show on Thursday or Friday. Tomorrow is kind of an Iowa day. In the last month, I think, we've talked to Cooper Koch, Logan Lee, and Sydney Falter. So that show tomorrow, put all those in together as one. You can check out all of or get caught up on some really good interviews revolving around Iowa athletics. And then on Wednesday, we will have our Shauna Green interview that we had a short time ago. It is football season. The Lions are already rocking and rolling because they're in the Hall of Fame game. Their head strength and conditioning coach is Josh Schuler. He's a Muscatine native. He was on our show recently. So that interview for you. And then Tom Cornellis was in the house about a month or so ago. And so we'll have that one for you as well. So the lineup on Wednesday is Shauna Green, Josh Schuler, and Tom Cornelis. That should be a ton of fun coming up this week as well. Kind of get caught up on the best of. It sounds weird to say best of because I think the best is yet to come, I hope. But it's been fun. Quickly get you caught up on some sports before we get to our first guest. It was a great weekend for the Quad Cities Steamwheelers. They win in Des Moines 56-45. Daquan Neal with 6 touchdowns. The victory officially clinching at least one home playoff game for the Quad Cities Steamwheeler. And Stud Red was in studio on Thursday. It's been since like 2005. Something like that, since the Wheelers have had a home playoff game, which is crazy to even think about considering the success that they've had. Woo, the success that they had. So congratulations to them, and we'll see at least one home playoff game, a big game against Tulsa this weekend. If they win that one, they could have home field advantage throughout the playoffs until they get to that IFL championship game. Big week of softball and baseball. Softball-wise, in Fort Dodge and 5A Pleasant Valley, 4A North Scott, 2A Louisa Muscatine, and also Durant. And on baseball side of things, in 4A Bettendorf baseball, first time back at state in 23 years. Our first guest, Kyle Huesman, will be happy about that. We'll talk to him maybe about that in just a second. Assumption back at state in 3A. They go to Sioux City. That's a hike, but they're in Sioux City this week. And then Mediapolis is in Carroll for the state tournament as well. Then one final note, and we'll remind you about it throughout the next coming weeks, but partnering with View from the West, Greg Armstrong and I starting River Rivals Media. It'll be a network, a media website coming up soon. All your one-stop shopping when it comes to Quad City sports content that you need. View from the West, we're going to have a View from the West kickoff party for the high school football season, August 17th. At the other bar in Moline. We'll have a live show there starting at 5 o'clock. A lot of coaches from around the area are going to stop by high school football-wise and chat with us. We'll have some food. Obviously, there's some drinks. So a lot more to get to as we continue to look ahead to high school football season. We'll put that on your calendar. August 17th, 5 o'clock at the other bar in downtown Moline. We thank them. We thank our sponsors. We thank Breedloves as well, a huge sponsor for what View from the West is doing, a fantastic podcast right here in the Quad Cities. So I think that kind of gets all the housekeeping up to date. And we start, and I guess I want to start with Kyle Huesman with, I just talked about it, your Bulldogs back in state for the first time in forever. You got to be pumped.
I am. No, that was great. I came back for the game. I came back home to my parents' house. My parents and we went to the game. They played Dubuque Hempstead, so that was really cool to be there in person to watch it. A couple of years ago when they played in the sub-state final at Iowa City High, Cade Obermueller pitched, so I went over there to watch that, and that did not go as well with Cade pitching. But no, that was really cool to see that, and in walk-off fashion too. You know, I mean, what did you say? 23 years? I think it's 2002, right? Is the last time. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where the streak was so long, where there just hadn't been a state that, you know, the walk-off is the way to do it, right? I mean, had they won like 15-0 or something, like, yeah, it would have been cool.
That's
but,
no
like,
fun.
It's just like when you have a drought like that, to win it on a walk-off like that was awesome. But yeah, really cool. And like I said, I was back for it, so that was really cool to see. It's one that, I mean, it's been like 7 years now since I played, but
that's weird.
That win isn't really like. I mean, I really like playing baseball for Bettendorf, and so that win wasn't like just for those guys. Like, that win is for like someone like me who didn't get it done when I was there, to see that, like, that's 23 years of Bettendorf players that win was for. So really excited that they got to make it. I think they're playing the 1 seed now tonight. It's going to be a tough matchup. I think it's Sioux City as well, so they kind of got the home field advantage there. But yeah, we'll see if I can find like a stream or something for it. I don't know what it's supposed to be on, but I'll have to see if I can tune in tonight for it.
Yeah, it's weird because when you say 23 years, and I don't want to hijack the whole interview on Bettendorf baseball, but it's been a good program. I was surprised to hear that it was 23 years because it's been a really good program. It's had plenty of success. It's not like it's been on tough times or anything like that, except for when you were there sucking it up. No, I'm just kidding. I kid. But I will say this, and Pat Anger put something on social media. By the way, we'll get back to our Anger Mondays when I get back from vacation, and we're going to rock and roll throughout the football all season with Pat. He's got kids baseball running around and all that crazy stuff. So he's traveling with Little League stuff. So we'll get back to our anger on Mondays really soon. But he mentioned to me on the phone, but he also put on social media, Wrigley Mathis, the player of the year in the MAC. And everybody this time of year is awful for youth baseball, and everybody's looking for the grass is greener and moving teams and switching teams, and if I can play AAA or majors and all that kind of stuff. Wrigley Mathis played AA baseball till he was 14 years old, and now he's the best player in the MAC. So as a warning or as a alert to parents out there, it doesn't matter what your kid's doing when they're 8, 9, 10 years old. It's about what they do when they get to high school and the development they get there. So don't get hijacked on AA, AAA, and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was really cool to point out as well. You were on the road this weekend, I believe. Were you in Chicago?
I was, yes.
Watching a lot of basketball. First and foremost, I know Tommy uses those excuses to get out to watch basketball to have fancy trips and get away from family. What was it like being out on the road and being in the gym? I think you guys got to love that stuff when you guys are in the gym and doing what you get to do.
Yeah, I mean, I like Chicago. I don't get to go there super often, so just kind of being in the big city, I guess, was kind of fun. I'd been to Des Moines a couple of times for AAU tournaments. I'd never been to McCormick Place out there in Chicago. That setup is unreal. I think the exhibition hall I was in had like 30 courts, so just crazy. Now, I was obviously watching about 4 or 5, 6 of those courts the whole weekend, but I mean, it's just crazy to see all the people there, all the players. Really all the talent that's there. I mean, and I still haven't gotten through like it's different when you go to a press conference after a game and, it's the Final Four and Gino Auriemma's there, but it's very different when I'm standing at a court watching a game and Gino Auriemma's there. Vic Schaefer, the Texas coach, is standing there. You got like Jan Jensen's there. Kim Mulkey was there yesterday. I stood 5 feet from Don Staley for about half an hour watching the game. So I still haven't fully grasped seeing all those coaches within like a 100-yard area.
Did Don Staley pick your brain? Did Don turn to you and say, Kyle, what do you think?
No, he did not. No, I didn't say we talked. So we stood next to
each other. They should have. They should have got your opinion.
Yeah, no, I don't know that she needs my opinion for anything. But yeah, really cool. And then on Saturday, after I cut the day a little bit short and walked from McCormick Place because the Green Line, the station was closed for maintenance. So I walked up Michigan Avenue about an hour all the way to the river. Had dinner up there and just was able to go into the actual downtown area, which was super fun to do because, like I said, I don't get to go to Chicago much, but yeah, I watched a lot of basketball, saw a lot of players play, and like I said, don't get to do that a ton. That tournament happens once a year, but really fun to see a lot of players play. When
you I guess after the weekend, what headline, what popped out to you when it comes to Iowa basketball, the future, a prospect? Was there one thing that kind of stood out to you the most?
Yeah, it's interesting because the Nike circuit doesn't exactly have a lot of, we've talked about the 26th recruiting class and how important that group is going to be. Addison Bjorn is on that All Iowa TAC team. She was playing with Team USA, so she wasn't there this week. Jenica Lewis does play with All Iowa TAC. She was there this week. But after that, McKenna Wolitzko is not a Nike player. She's also still rehabbing from her ACL surgery. Some of the other players like Kate Harpering is not a Nike player. Gigi Battle's not a Nike player. So a lot of the players they're going after in that 2026 class aren't necessarily Nike players. So I didn't get to see them. But I did get to see some of those, 27, 28 players. I got to see Chloe Johnson, who's a incoming sophomore up at Duluth Marshall. She plays on All Iowa TAC. I was really impressed by her ability to run the point guard position for an All Iowa TAC team that is obviously a little shorthanded with Bjorn out, and they had, I believe it's Jada Porter was out as well. I don't know if she was with Team USA as well. So they were a little shorthanded. But still, when that team's at full strength, they're one of the best AAU teams in the country. And for an incoming sophomore, Chloe Johnson, to run the point guard position the way that she does, you don't see any sense of being flustered at all playing on that stage. With players that are 1 or 2 years older than her, and she's been doing it for a couple of years. I think she debuted she played at Nike Nationals as an 8th grader with All Iowa TAC. So the way that she plays, not necessarily always going to put up 20 points. I think she had 23 in one of the games. But gets to the basket, draws some fouls, shot the three really well yesterday in the game that I watched. But none of it, you watch her, and none of it is like, oh, she's an incoming sophomore. You feel like she could be a junior or a senior in high school. And I think some of that does come with the experience that she's already gained over the last couple of years playing with that All-Iowa tag team. But I got to talk to her after one of the games, and she said that basketball is the game that she loves. So you don't feel a ton of pressure going out there and playing when you're just playing the game of basketball. But I was really impressed by her poise and calmness playing the point guard position for them. The All-Iowa Tech, their 16U team, it has a bunch of 28, 29, 20, 30 prospects on there. I think they have 4 or 5 that Iowa's offered now. That's a really good team, a really young team, but a really good team. They lost in the quarterfinals to a Missouri Phenom team, lost in overtime on a buzzer beater, so a tough loss. But they've got a couple players that Iowa's offered. Brynlee Altenberg is a lefty shooter. When she gets going, she can shoot it really well. Had a game where she moved 4 or 5. The game that I watched, and then yesterday in the loss, I think she had 4 or 5 as well. They've got a couple of really younger players. I think 2029 is Kinsley Kitterhagen. Iowa just offered her. Ashley Wilson is 2030. She's on the team. And there's one more. Olivia Johnson is 2029 as well. She's like 6'1" and kind of plays like a guard, is able to handle the ball. So someone that if she adds an inch or two and is 6'2", 6'3", could have like a forward that can have those guard skills that is not necessarily super common in the women's game right now. But I think that All-Iowa Tech team is going to be really good once the current 17 team kind of graduates and goes to college. I think those up and coming 16, that team is going to be really good once they get to that top level. But got to see a bunch of players, some players that Iowa hasn't offered yet that the coaches were watching. Abby Stamp was there for the first couple of days, so kind of kept an eye on where she was going, who she was watching. Then Jan was there yesterday, and she watched that All-Iowa Tech team. That was actually both All-Iowa Tech teams. And then I did get to talk with Destiny Menyawu, the 2027 power forward. She's the brother of Cam Menyawu, who is now on the Iowa men's basketball team after transferring from Drake. Talked to her after their game yesterday. They unfortunately lost. But she's a really good rebounder as a power forward and is still trying to work on becoming a power forward that can handle the ball and dribble drive from the perimeter. She did that on multiple occasions. Isn't afraid to grab a rebound and push it down the floor. She feels like she's getting more comfortable with that. She's hoping to get out to Iowa this fall for an unofficial visit, but it's still kind of in that middle portion of the recruiting process where you get your offers and you start to build relationships with coaching staffs, but then you have to go see the campuses and learn about those programs. So there wasn't anyone that she said she's really looking like really excited to go see a couple of places in particular, just kind of trying to go see some places this fall, set up a bunch of visits and just kind of learn about programs. So kind of in that, like I said, in that middle portion of the recruiting process where there's nothing really substantial news-wise, but Iowa's someone that has offered, and like I said, she's hoping to get out there for a visit this fall. And obviously her brother Cam has been through the recruiting process and may have some comments about Iowa and push her that way, but she said it's really nice to have someone like Cam who's been through that initial recruiting process and has also been in the transfer portal. So she feels like she can reach out to him at any point and get some help with the recruiting process and whatever it may be. But like I said, the 26 class didn't have Jenica Lewis was the only one out there playing. So it's more just kind of watching players and some that I was offered and some that Iowa hasn't, just so I can kind of get a gauge on, what do those players do well. So if they do have, a visit or something like that, or they do down the road become a more of a top level prospect for Iowa, I kind of have that idea. I watched them a couple years ago or a year ago, so I kind of know what their game is like. I can feel like I can give a little bit more of a detailed answer on questions about them. But like I said, a lot of it was also just kind of follow around the coaching staff and just kind of keeping an eye on where they went and see who they were watching. And like I said, some of those players that haven't been offered yet that could potentially get an offer here in the next month or two, or maybe even like next year or something like that. The other thing that I would mention, I'm kind of rambling at this point.
No, you're good.
A couple of offers went out for the 2026 class. They offered Vienna Murray, who is out of Minnesota, 2026 guard, kind of a small forward guard type player. And then they also offered Morgan Stewart out of Maryland, Germantown, Maryland, a point guard. So a couple, they're not done looking at the 26 class. I don't know. I think Vienna Murray's looking to set up an official visit. Haven't heard if Morgan Stewart is looking to. I would assume because she got the offer this late in the process, I'd assume they're going to try to get her in for an official visit. But we're getting close again. I mean, we're into late July now. Players are going to start taking official visits in September and October and August, and we're going to start getting some decisions. But Iowa's not quite done. I think this might be about it for offers, but they're still not done looking at options. I know Vienna Murray told me that The coaching staff was very open and honest with her over the last year and a half that they've been watching her, but they basically told her, here are the things that we want you to improve on before we offer you. And apparently she's done that because she got the offer now. So someone that they feel comfortable offering and bringing in an official visit now. And we'll see how this 26 class pans out. But I think there's a lot of good options. And with those recent offers now, I think there's even more options to go after in this class.
When you look at what Coach Jensen has done, and obviously a newer head coach, so kind of trying to figure out how she recruits. It was funny talking with Tom Kakern on Friday. Ben McCollum's different than Fran McCaffrey. Ben's a little more selective, I guess might be a nice word when it comes to if you get an offer, it means something. And I don't mean it in that light, but in general, have you kind of figured out what Coach Jensen's recruiting thought processes or style is when it comes to what she wants to do when she gets out on the recruiting trail and sees kids, and how she wants to assemble a team when it comes to the recruiting process?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It's hard to say. I don't know. It seems like, you look at someone like a McKenna Wolitzko or an Addison Bjorn, kind of that 6'1" type, like small forward. That, like Sita Fulcher was a small forward, but was 5'11". She was an undersized small forward. I don't know if it's Jan wants to offer more small forwards that kind of fit. Like an Emily Rodriguez probably fits that small forward that can play like a guard, but she also has the height to give some rebounding and be that actual true small forward. You look at someone like McKenna Wolitzko. Vienna Murray is 6'1" and can play that small forward position. Addison Bjorn is that type of player. I think Olivia Johnson, I know she's 29, but is already 6'1". I think she's that type of player. I don't know if that's just kind of the way the women's game is trending, that you're starting to get, women's players that are going to be a little bit taller, maybe a couple inches taller than they used to be, that can play like a guard and be that small forward. I don't know if that's the way the game is trending, or that's the way that Jan Jensen is offering players. She wants to have that small forward or a power forward that can play as a guard as well. I would lean towards saying that I think the women's game is just trending towards having, a player that is 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", that, like I said, I just talked to Destiny Minyawa, and she said that she's working with a trainer about getting better with ball handling and being able to dribble drive from the perimeter and being okay with grabbing a rebound. And I don't have to outlet it right away. I can just go down the floor with it. So I think some of that is just the way the game is trending, as players are wanting to be more than just a normal power forward that kind of more like what McKenna Warnock was as a power forward for Iowa. Again, probably not quite the size that you want as a power forward, but someone that could play kind of like a guard at times. So I think that's the way the game is trending. But Jan is certainly kind of going after some of those wing players that can play as a guard. They also have the size to go into the paint and rebound and do stuff like that. But yeah, it's hard to say, and it's hard to compare. Like you said, Tom would compare Ben McCollum to Fran's recruiting. Obviously, I didn't cover Lisa. I didn't cover recruiting for more than about a year or so, or a year and a half, and then Lisa retired. So I don't have like a Rolodex of what Lisa liked to go after. Obviously, because I just haven't been doing this job long enough to go back and see what she did. So it's hard to compare them, especially with, like I said, I think the game is changing a little bit with the type of players that are coming out of high school now. So I think it's hard to compare when the game is changing like that. But I do think it has some differences from Lisa, and we knew that was going to happen. Jan was going to have her type of players that maybe she had thrown out there when Lisa was the head coach, and maybe Lisa said, yeah, I think we should go after someone else. Now that Jan's the head coach, she can go after the exact type of players that she wants. And obviously she's got some new assistants now that are going to have their own thoughts. We've already seen it with Gigi Battle getting the offer, and she's going to officially visit this fall. That's a Lysandra Barrett recruit from Georgia Tech. So you bring in some of these assistant coaches from other areas of the country. Maybe they've recruited some other players at their previous stops, and they're going to have some input as well. So it's interesting right now because really Jan is still pretty early in the stages of recruiting for herself. This is going to be her first real class because obviously the 25 class was all committed. Lucy Olson was already committed out of the portal. So we've seen what Jan did in the portal this year, but now this is her first real recruiting class, and these offers that we're starting to go out now are her first real offers as a head coach. So it's still pretty early in trying to dive into what she wants as a head coach on her team. But like I said, I think the game is just trending more towards players that are 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", that want to handle the ball and have those skills.
One more women's basketball before I want to talk to you a little about some football, which is right around the corner, which is crazy. But The All-Star game this weekend, we come out of the All-Star game. Caitlin's been hurt. She has been hurt. She's been back. She's been hurt again. Obviously hurt herself right before the All-Star game, didn't play in the All-Star game. Coach was out on social media today, or came out on social media. She won't be against playing when they return to action against the Liberty. But there's some talk of her maybe going and seeing some specialists figuring this thing out. As somebody like yourself who's watched a lot of Caitlin Clark basketball, she hasn't seemed like herself lately. The injury has to have something to do with it. She didn't forget how to play the game of basketball at a high level. If you're the Fever, what's your thought process on how long you leave her out, knowing what she does for the game and what she is for the game, but also knowing that there's a bigger prize, and that's the postseason and championship and all that kind of stuff as well. Where do you see things when it comes to Caitlin Clark, someone who's covered a lot of Caitlin Clark basketball?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. And first, your first point there about me watching a lot of Caitlin basketball, I've never seen Caitlin hurt. She played every single game that she could have at Iowa. She never missed a game. Yeah, she tweaked an ankle here or there, but never missed a game, never anything like that. So I've never seen anything like this. And I tweeted it the other night that, what was it, the second to last game before the All-Star break? Were they playing Connecticut? Was that who they were playing when she got hurt?
Yeah.
She tweaked it, and then she was on the bench with that towel over her head. I said I'd never seen her, like, she looked like she was teary-eyed, like she knew, like she's just struggling with everything that's kind of going on right now. With obviously knowing that she re-injured it. I feel like she's struggling with the injury because someone that I think what they said, they went all the way back to like her sophomore year of high school is the last time that she missed a game due to an injury. So I think it's hard for her to handle this where you didn't even miss a game here or there with a tweaked ankle or something. It's got to be frustrating when you've went however many years of I'm just going to play every game, like I'm never hurt, whatever. And now you're going through the stretch where you're playing games, you're not playing games, you're playing games a little injured, you're not playing games again. And then obviously she's not shooting it well. I think on the road she's like 2 of 35 or something from 3-point range. I think some of that is she's gotten so used to I'm just playing every game. And, I don't know what they're doing in practice. Are they limiting her in practice so that way she's ready for games? She's just out of rhythm right now. And someone like her that shoots from the distances that she does, you don't just walk into a gym and tip off for the game and start throwing up 30-footers like that. You have to be in a rhythm and doing that in practice and games and things like that. So I just think she's really out of rhythm this year from, like you said, just the stopping and starting and things like that. And it's tough to watch because obviously you said she didn't forget how to play basketball. She's still a really good basketball player. But I think there's other factors leading to why she's not playing as well right now. In terms of what they should do, I mean, it's really hard because it's not, the season's 42 games. This isn't like an MLB season or an NBA season even where you got 82 games. Like, I feel like the best way to go about it is Caitlin should not play for a while. You have to make sure that she is fully healthy when she comes back. But then on the flip side, you say, I mean, yeah, the team played without her for a while, but can the team keep that up for more than like 5 or 6 games where they play well? Can they do it for 15 games? Can they do it for 20 games and keep the team in the playoffs? Because the problem is if Caitlin comes back healthy and you keep her out for 15, 20 games, 25 games, and you say, okay, she's back healthy, but you're like, okay, we're 3 games out of the playoffs with 10 games left. Now it's too late. And now do you just keep her out the rest of the season? So I think the fact that the season's only 42 games, it really makes the decision tougher. Not that they're going to play her like severely injured or anything, but do you say, do we bring her back when she's 90% healthy or do we bring her back when she's 100% healthy? I think some of that will be, where is Caitlin health-wise? How many games does she miss before she gets to that 80%, that 90%, that 100%? And you talk with Caitlin about, how the season's going. Do we feel like we need to bring you back at 90%? Are you okay coming back at 90%? And I think some of that will just be gauge how the season, if they come out of the All-Star break and they win 5 games in a row with Caitlin out, I think that changes things a little bit. But if they lose all 5 games with Caitlin out and then all of a sudden they're out of the playoffs, I think that changes things as well. So it's a really tough conversation to have because obviously you built this team for this year to be a team that could push for a title. And obviously, I think this team I don't think anyone is in danger of leaving for next year. But every year that passes where you don't get to that level, I do the same thing with the Bengals right now. I mean, I'm a Joe Burrow fan, and every year that passes that the Bengals don't get back to the playoffs or don't get back to the Super Bowl, it's like, the window continues to close because Joe Burrow isn't getting any younger. And Caitlin's really young, but I mean, you got Kelsey Mitchell, who's been around for a long time. When is she going to be done? And when someone like Kelsey Mitchell leaves that team, that's going to be a big hole because Kelsey's one of the best players on that team right now. So it's always every time that moment passes that you feel like we had a team this year, and whether it's injuries that derail it or something else, you just worry that a year just passed that we kind of just wasted with a team that we thought could be on that title team level. So it'll be interesting if they, like I said, I think Caitlin needs to sit for a while. Be sure that she's a little bit more healthy when she gets back. But like I said, it's tough with a 42-game season because you don't have all the time in the world to sit there and wait for her to be healthy.
Yeah, you hate watching her have setbacks. You know what I mean? It'd be nice if you know for sure before you go back. And I'm not saying they didn't know for sure, but obviously whatever's going on or however she's feeling isn't working right now. So we'll see how that goes down the stretch. Before I let you go, Kyle Huesman from the Hawkeye Report joining me right now. Big Ten Media Days are this week for football. Your boss, quote, Tom Kakert, spending the week in Vegas, as always, the tough gigs that he has. The preseason media poll came out. It's got Illinois at 4. It's got Iowa at 7. That's out of 18 teams. I think people, like, I'm so old, you're younger, Kyle, but when I see, like, Iowa ranked 7th in the Big Ten, I get cranky because I'm like, wait a minute, there's what, 11 teams, 10, 11, whatever, 12? Now there's 18. Is that, like, when you see that poll come out, do you agree, disagree, too low, too high? Your thoughts on where the mighty media has the Iowa Hawkeyes ranked going into the season?
Yeah, I think you're right on the whole. And I wouldn't say I'm so young that they were 10. How many teams were there when I was growing up? I mean, like
11,
there wasn't
12.
I remember. I'm not so young that I don't remember like Nebraska and Rutgers and like I remember the Big Ten before those guys. So
yeah,
it's very different from then when like you're right. Yeah, if Iowa was 7th, you'd be like, oh, this could be like a 4-8 team. Like this season could be awful type thing. But yeah, with 18 teams, 7th in these Big Ten standings, you say, well, like the teams ahead of them are being talked about as potential playoff teams. Like Indiana is a team that obviously made the playoff last year, a team that could potentially do it. You got Michigan is at 5. They just won the national title a couple years ago. Illinois is obviously a team that has gotten a lot of playoff consideration. Their schedule is much easier than Iowa's. And then you got Oregon, Ohio State, and Penn State. So it's not like any of those. It's not like you're looking at the Iowa 7th and you're like, why is Michigan State ahead of them? Like this is dumb. It's all teams that you could make arguments for, and it's because there are 18 teams now that make up the conference. Yeah, it's interesting because I think like they get Indiana, they got Oregon at home, they got Penn State. I think they could have been ahead of Indiana. Again, I haven't delved into every schedule. I think some of that is how the schedule plays out. The media may not think that Iowa is necessarily worse than Indiana, but if Indiana has an easier schedule, I think that's how some of that plays out. But I mean, I don't have a problem with Iowa at 7. I think it's on the low end of where they could have been. But you like I said, Indiana's there at 6. If you beat Indiana early in the season, that changes everything, right? And they've obviously got the opportunities with Penn State and Oregon both coming to Iowa City, so they're going to have opportunities to do the damage to potentially make the playoff. But yeah, it is weird to see them at 7th. I'm doing those I don't know if you've seen them, the preseason behind enemy lines articles where I'm reaching out to all the On3 beat writers and kind of getting their thoughts on the team that they cover. And then at the end, it's late July. I'm doing the fun, like, hey, what do you think is going to happen in the Iowa game? And some of them are there, like Indiana and Rutgers are early in the season, but then I'm still asking the same ones for Oregon when it's like in November. There's been a lot of Iowa losses picked. Rutgers thinks that the Rutgers guy thinks that Rutgers could win at home against Iowa. Indiana guy thinks that Indiana could beat Iowa.
That's
the
cute.
Minnesota guy thinks it's possible.
It's cute. It's cute.
It's funny that the Oregon guy picked Iowa to lose 35-13. So I just don't know
at
that.
Kinnick.
Yeah. So I just don't know that. I mean, if you go by those guys, I think they're going to have Iowa with like 5 or 6 losses this year. So I think a lot of that just comes from, there are some questions on the defensive end of the ball, kind of in the secondary to an extent, and really at linebacker a little bit, but I've never been too worried about linebackers at Iowa. But I think people are they just don't know what's going to happen with the offense because there's been so many years of where it's just not been great. Although people think it's going to be good this year with Mark Gronowski, I think a lot of people just want to see it first. And I think that's why Iowa comes in at 7 in the media poll. Had they, had Gronowski been here last year and they maybe won an extra game and had a really good year and had something to really tangibly grab and say, here's what they did last year to bring into this year, maybe they would be up there ahead of Michigan and Indiana. Maybe they'd be right there with Illinois. But I think the fact that Gronowski is another transfer that hasn't played at Iowa yet, I think people are just like, he could fit in and be really good, but we just don't know yet. And if it doesn't work out and the defense is just not quite that same level, I could see Iowa losing several games this year. And I think that's where people are right now. Is they just have to kind of see it before they believe it. And that's kind of why they fall at 7 right now, in my opinion.
It's cute. Rutgers always thinks they're going to beat Iowa, and then they get housed. And it's a Friday night game, and that place will be excited for a little bit, and then it'll be done. Minnesota's 1-7 under PJ Fleck against Iowa. So, yeah, they should be puffy-chested. That makes a whole bunch of sense. And then Indiana's still a basketball school. They had one good season. They don't have their quarterback back, and they're coming to Iowa City. Like, really, Indiana, are we to this point in college football now where Indiana fans think that now they're just going to go to Iowa City and beat Iowa? Like, no big deal. I mean, that's just you should give that material to the team, because I mean, but that's part of what makes July awesome and August awesome. I get it. And hey, Oregon, I'm not going to sit here and say Oregon's going to beat Iowa or Iowa's going to beat Oregon, but very few teams go to Kinnick Stadium and win by three touchdowns. That's the thing that kind of stood out with that. But go ahead.
And I think I look at it there, and you mentioned Indiana, you mentioned Minnesota, Rutgers, even Nebraska and USC. Those are all what I would consider I think Indiana's probably the best of those teams. Those are all really solid football teams. Could Minnesota beat Iowa? I think they're certainly good enough to beat Iowa. I wouldn't pick Minnesota over Iowa right now. I wouldn't pick USC over Iowa right now, but I think USC certainly has the talent that by that point of the season, because it is a later game, if USC's rolling at that point out on the West Coast, that's a game that Iowa struggled with out on the West Coast before. So maybe USC isn't the better team, but maybe they beat Iowa just because of the travel and things like that. Nebraska's not a bad team.
No.
But
and it's at their place.
Right. So I think Nebraska could win that game. There's a lot of games that I would probably favor Iowa right now. Indiana, Nebraska, USC, Minnesota, Rutgers probably being on the low end of that. But all of those games are ones I'd say I would probably favor Iowa right now. But I wouldn't be surprised if Iowa lost any of those games. They're not going to lose all of them.
I will say this. It's tough to look at Iowa's schedule and be like, all right, they're not losing that game. They're not losing that. I mean, there's games on there, especially non-conference wise. But, I mean, you look at Iowa State, you look at all the games you just talked about. You can't look at those and go, well, that's an easy one. Like I always joke, my kids, we've always tried to take them to Lions games where they're going to win. We've tried to take them to the easiest games because if you're going to go all the way to Detroit, you might as well win. If you're doing that with Iowa's football schedule this year in the Big Ten, like we kind of joked, probably with Ken Prince last week, I used to see Indiana on Iowa's football schedule and think, oh, that's an 11 o'clock start on ESPN2, and it's a sleepy, easy win and all that kind of stuff. And that's the way my brain's been programmed. So I saw them this year, and I was like, oh, a home game against Indiana, it's probably an 11 o'clock game. Who knows what it is? That could be one of the biggest games of the week when it comes to Iowa versus Indiana. So things have changed a little bit. Like you said, it's tough to sit there and go, oh, that's an easy win. That's an easy win. Challenging games throughout the schedule, I get that. But these beat writers that think they're going to come beat Iowa, that's cute. I love it.
And I think well, to your point there, we're not asking them to pick Iowa's entire schedule. So they're picking one specific game. Like I said, Iowa could lose any of those games, but I don't think they would lose all of those games.
Sure.
So you're asking them to pick one game. But it is, like you said, the trying to find a game where you pick Iowa to be like, oh, they're going to win that game. Yeah, Michigan State and Rutgers are tied for 13th in the poll. But like you said, Rutgers is there on a Friday. I don't think Iowa loses that game. But Michigan State is 13th. That would be the one Iowa City Big Ten game where you say that should be the game. They lost at Michigan State last year, and they've got some players back from that team. So, I mean, you look at it and you say, in terms of home games, Albany and UMass, those are your two games that you say, yep, those are the wins. And then, and like I said, they're not going to lose every coin toss, but there are a lot of coin toss games where you're going to go in and say they might win, they might lose. And obviously as the season starts going, we see Iowa play, see how Gronowski's doing, see how the defense is doing. You'll be able to kind of change your picks. But right now there's a lot of games that maybe you favor Iowa, but it wouldn't be more than a couple of points. And, I guess that's fun. That's what you want on the schedule, right? You want every week to be a good game.
Illinois fans aren't going to like to hear this, but it used to be Find Illinois. and you can mark that as a W. There was a long, 66-0 did happen. So, but that's one, they're not on the schedule, which sucks for Quad City fans, and then two, both teams should have really good seasons. So, Kyle, I appreciate your time. Go ahead.
I said Illinois is going to be good, and I enjoy the I'm not a big SEC guy, so I enjoy the Brett Bielema discourse on Twitter of openly. I loved his whole charades with Shane Beamer in the bowl game.
Oh.
So I wouldn't. I mean, Illinois. I'm one that always roots for like it's inevitable the Penn States, your Ohio States, Alabama, Georgia, but Illinois making the playoff would not bother me because it's a new team. It's just something like SMU making the playoff was kind of fun, just kind of a new team to see in there. Arizona State the same way. So Illinois is one of those teams that if they're going to make the playoff, that's fine. It's a new team. It's not your normal run of the mill team. So. And like I said, I enjoy the Brett Bielema being open and honest about his thoughts on the SEC.
The guy's got a Tiger Hawk tattoo. I mean, that's all. We'll leave it at that. That's all that should be said.
Is that what makes it okay to say that stuff about him?
I think it is. He's a Hawkeye at heart. He wouldn't say it on the show, but he's a Hawkeye at heart. So, Kyle, I appreciate it. The Hawkeye Report has a ton of stuff right now. Kyle talked about going behind enemy lines. Those things are great. Great content from both Tom and Kyle, both going out on the road recently to check out hoops recruiting for men and women. Tom's going to be in Vegas for Big Ten Media Days. You're also counting down the top 27 games all time of the Kirk Ferentz era. So much for a slow July for the Hawkeye Report. There's no such thing. I think there's more content there than ever. Go check it out. Follow Kyle on all the social media platforms. And as always, my friend, I appreciate the time. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right. That is Kyle Huesman from the Hawkeye Report. Good points. I mean, I'll get all fired up a little bit because Rutgers always thinks that it's not going to happen. Minnesota is laughable because they've lost 7 of 8 games to Iowa. So until they win 1 or 2 in a row, and the one they've won probably shouldn't have happened. Well, it should have happened because it wasn't a fair catch. But anyways, I digress. So, but those are always the fun things as you look through the season. Iowa's schedule's tough. I mean, it just is. And like we just mentioned, there's the big time games, the Penn State at home, the Oregon at home, Indiana at home. There's some really good games going on the road to Wisconsin, those type of games. But there's some toss-up games that are just going to be difficult. There's not a gimme. There's not a layup on Iowa's Big Ten schedule. Kyle mentioned it. Maybe Michigan State, maybe Rutgers. But Rutgers is on the road. Michigan State, yeah, it's at home, but lost home last year. So will be interesting to see football season. Man, it's right around the corner. Can't wait. Iowa Football Media Day, I will mention, is August 8th, coming up real soon. We're hoping to do something fun with that as well. So, and as we mentioned with Kyle, our Mondays with Pat Anger will resume in the very, very near future as well. We got more to get to on today's show. Up next, the Cubs are in first place. The Bears are reporting to camp real soon. There's a ton going on in Chicago sports. Plus, we mentioned the Illini, ranked 4th in the Big Ten poll, by the media going into Big Ten Media Days. Our good friend Larry Hawley will join us after the break and talk about all those things and much more. You're watching Off the Air on a Monday right here in the Quad Cities. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak, with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo, now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Yeah, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Monday in the Quad Cities. It's that time of year. It's a really fun time of year, especially if you're a Chicago sports fan, because the Cubs are good. They're really good. They got the best record in the National League. Of course, they're sharing that with their rivals to the north, the Brewers. And the Bears rookies are already reporting. They're starting quarterbacks in town. And the veterans report on Tuesday. There's a lot to talk about, so we turn to our Chicago expert. Larry Hawley joins me right now on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. First and foremost, young man, thank you for doing this. I hope you're having a great summer so far.
Yeah, things are good. Lots of marathon training. You know, we're about a little under 3 months now from the marathon, so a lot of that. It's been a very warm summer up here. We're going to get really, really warm, as I'm sure it's been for you out in the western part of the state. It's been warm here, but it's been a good summer. It's been an active summer. A fair amount of news when it comes to Chicago sports, so we'll see how it all goes down.
Yeah, it's a fun time of year. I was telling my boys that, 2016 was 2016, and they had some good years after that, but this is kind of the first time in a while that I've got some anticipation for what could be in September and October, if maybe October is really good and all those kind of things. I think I want to start with the Cubs. Best record in the NL. For a minute, they had the best record in baseball. Changed yesterday, but coming out of the All-Star break and playing the way they did against the Red Sox, where are you with this team? And are you with me that this could be an extremely fun August, September, October as well?
That's about where I'm at. I think that they have a chance to be entertaining for the end of the season, and they have a chance to maybe be entertaining in October. Part of me, when I think about a World Series champion, do I think of a complete team? Part of me thinks maybe starter, bullpen, they could use a little bit more. Their offense, with the way they can produce and perform at times, might be able to really do something. I mean, they could really make October very interesting. In my mind, from at the beginning of the season where I thought this Cub team was an 88 to 90 win team that will win the division. I think maybe they're a little better now. I'm kind of 90 to 93. I think they could win the division and do a little bit of damage in the playoffs if they can get there. But as we've seen, Milwaukee's going to be there. They always hang there. They're always right there. So you're going to have to contend with them all summer. And it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic in that fight goes and see where the Cubs end up here. But my opinion is the Cubs are probably above expectations to where I thought earlier this year. And I think that they have the chance to make for some fun times here coming up the next couple months.
It's funny because you mentioned the Brewers, and I'm a Lions fan, so I remember last football season, and the Lions had this gaudy, amazing record, but they were grinding to the end of the season because the Vikings are right there. They didn't put away a division championship anytime early and all that kind of stuff. I could see that being the same way for the Cubs, where they're battling throughout September in order to secure or win a division. Is that a good thing or a bad thing in your mind? I know there's probably two schools of thought, but they're going to be in it, it looks like. And now who knows what happens. 10-game losing streaks and all this crazy stuff happens, but it looks like they're going to be battling the Brewers for the majority of the summer, and that's a really good Brewers team. Is that a good thing, a bad thing? What do you think?
It can be either one. I mean, there's all sorts of evidence to say not. I think a lot about 2018, where that Cub team that was very, very good, that won 95 games, ended up losing out to a Brewers team in the same kind of division where I think they've won 10 straight now, and I think they won about 10 straight to finish up that year in 18. And they were so good, and instead of the Cubs having the chance to host and be a number one seed in the NL, they end up being in a wild card game, and their offense by that point had broken, as Theo Epstein said, and all of a sudden, they're out of the playoffs in one game when they were arguably they could have been close to the second best team in baseball. There are good things to do it. I try to think back to history. 2007, the Cubs had to fight for the division tooth and nail till the final weekend, and they were swept. In 2003, they fought tooth and nail to the final weekend, and they ended up getting within 5 outs of the World Series. The White Sox of 2005, who we have mentioned before, they were a team that ended up almost losing a 15-game lead, come into the playoffs and storm out, win 11-12, win the World Series. I don't really, to me, it's kind of either or. It all depends kind of on the club itself. Maybe this Cub team with a lot of guys who are, some of them competing for the first time to get to, the postseason or at least significant postseason. Maybe it helps out a little bit to kind of have a little bit of postseason baseball before you get to postseason baseball.
Maybe it's me being a lifelong pessimistic Cub fan, but I'm kind of with you. I think it can be a fun season. I think they're going to make the postseason. I don't know if they're a World Series team yet. What do they have to do to become a World Series contender or to give you some confidence that they are a World Series contender? And they have that everybody talks about, that trade deadline's coming up. What do they have to do to go from being a really good playoff team to maybe somebody that you can speak more confidently about as a World Series contender?
They need another starter. I mean, I think at least in my mind, they need another starter. And it's a shame Justin Steele is out because that's a guy who you could have really relied on at this point when you're looking for a playoff rotation. I think they need another starter, and I hope that's something they can get. Is that person out there? I'm not certain. I mean, unless the Pirates decide to trade Paul Skeens, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that will happen. It's a tough thing. I think, for me, the Cubs, you either have to have one of those incredible starter runs, like I go back to the 2005 White Sox, and then I think you need to get that bullpen short up, especially with the closing and Palencia really doing what he can do to really lock that down. Having a Ryan Presley pitch well, he had been a little better before this. He had kind of found some rhythm. He had a bad day on Sunday. That's where, in my opinion, it comes in. Your hitters are going to have to be consistent. Could the Cubs slug their way to a World Series championship? You never know. It could happen. You score 10 runs a game, you could do it. I still think you need a starter. You need to make sure your bullpen is secure. You really need to make sure you have a real stopper down there. And Palencia is developing himself into that role. And those are the things that, for me, you've really got to have. Because the Cubs, like I think back in 2016, had a really good bullpen, had really strong starting throughout. And that's what they have to have. And I don't know if this Cub team quite has it. And in my mind, the one way they win the World Series is if their pitchers catch fire and their hitters just hit and don't stop.
Yeah. You look at it too. You want to see them kind of spend and do, but you don't know how much they will with other teams around because there's so many teams that still think they're in it. And that's the difference with Major League Baseball right now. There's not a lot of teams that you have to find somebody to dance with in order to dance with when it comes to trading. Larry Hawley joining me right now and Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. One more with the Cubs before we kind of move to the Bears. There's that talk of how much you go all in. And Owen Casey, is he the replacement if they can't sign Kyle Tucker and all of those things moving forward. And then you got frustrated Cub fans who are like, who cares about the future? Like, this is the chance to do now. Where are you with all that? Are you willing to trade in Owen Casey, some of the better prospects in this team, in order to go for it here in 2025?
I think you do. I think you are at the point in this franchise where you've not been to the playoffs in 5 years. You're approaching a decade since your last World Series appearance, let alone your win. You're a big market team. You go do that. I think you go make those moves. I think if you have the chance to do it, you give it that give it that chance. If you've got to trade Casey to get a really good starter that you feel like can help out, I think that's something you do, because the Cubs have to be that team. They have to be that big market team, that big money team. They have built this park. They have aligned this. They have talked about this being a new era of the Cubs. You're out of this lovable loser era. I think you make that move. If the move is not to be made, I get it. I think there may not be a move to be made, but I do think you've got to try. And if a possibility comes up, you can't be thinking about a future. You've got to think about now, because I think that's what this Cubs team has to be. They have to start playing to where they are. Big team, big market. Make the big move, and don't think as much about tomorrow. Think a lot about today. That's where I am personally.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I don't want them to trade for trade's sake. if that makes sense. Like it's got to make
Yes,
sense,
yeah.
and don't just don't be desperate when it comes to, and like you mentioned, I mean, Alcantara down in the Marlins doesn't excite me that much. I mean, it has to be somebody that's going to move the meter and really help them in the postseason. And you tell me up in Chicago, like in the Quad Cities, Bears fans or not Bears fans, excuse me, Cub fans are getting excited. You can kind of feel it and tell it. Is that city kind of crazy for the Cubs right now? Are they cautiously optimistic? Are they all in? What's the vibe you get from the Windy City right now?
I think there's at least some excitement. I think this Cub team is exciting. I think that they bring one thing that, one of my good friends had mentioned, Danny Rocket, who I go on his podcast here and there. He had mentioned the last 2 years of the teams were not really exciting. This year's kind of changed that with Tucker, with the emergence of PCA, you have Palencia coming out of the bullpen. Other things have kind of made this an entertaining team, and they're a lot of fun to watch, and they've generated excitement. You could feel it at the ballpark this weekend with Boston. I live right near the ballpark. You can definitely sense that there's like a palpable excitement about what is here. Is this oh my God, we're going to win the World Series? No. But this is an, oh my God, we can play October baseball. Maybe we can stay there a couple of weeks. And maybe it can be exciting. And maybe this is a brand of basketball. Basketball. This is a brand of baseball that is engaging along with being successful. And I think that is something that Cubs fans have really been waiting for since probably about the middle of 2001, when that team, you might remember, faded, when they were in first place till about late June and then everything fell apart. They've been craving a good, exciting baseball team that was also successful, and the Cubs have that. I don't think there's this air of they're going to win the World Series, but there's this air of excitement that a few fun months are on the way.
Yeah, it just takes a seat at the table. I know it's cliche, but get into the postseason, give yourself a chance, and in baseball, especially, anything can happen. With it being a Cub time of year, the Bears, when they start, it's just like, all right, the Bears are starting. And I don't think they ever stopped, right, Larry? Like Bears football is just, and the NFL in general is just a beast. I'm a Lions fan. I talked about it. They have the Hall of Fame games, so they're already in training camp, rocking and rolling. The Bears, we mentioned the veterans come on Tuesday. I know people were excited that Caleb Williams showed up a little early. As Bears season begins, as the preseason and training camp begins, I mean, we've talked on the show with you about, Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams being the big headlines. How big are those headlines right now, and how quickly are fans going to want to see certain things, if that makes any sense? And I love the video clips on social media where like there's and that's every team. It's not just Bears, every team, where it's like, look at this when they're in shorts and they're completing passes. But there is a different energy to this Bears season, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think the energy for the Bears, it's interesting because there was energy last year. It's maybe a little bit more up this year because I think Ben Johnson is a very popular coach. And I think there's a lot of people in Chicago who may have even wanted Ben Johnson a year ago, or thought Ben Johnson could be really an effective coach going in immediately with Caleb Williams last year. I just think it's multiplied. And I think that there was a lot of excitement. Even last year when you had the Hard Knocks, there was excitement last year with Caleb coming in, with DJ Moore, having seen what he showed in his first year with the Bears. But I think this year is definitely a different level because it feels like that there's a level of offensive of competence that was simply not there, that at least you felt like in the Matt Eberflus era, And I think there were probably some hesitations about Shane Waldron, which ended up, of course, coming true. It didn't end up working out very well at all with him. He didn't even make it the whole season. So I think for me, it really feels like everything's amped. It always is amped for the Bears no matter what, although I do think it was a little bit down maybe for 2022 and 2023 because this team had struggled and because they were rebuilding. I think there was a lot of energy for 24, and that's only hyped up now. Again, for me, the hype is all about Ben Johnson and the competency he's going to bring from an offensive perspective, at least everybody hopes, to the Bears this year.
You mentioned hype. How much does hype have to come along with patience? Because we've talked, I think, with you on this show that you expect an improvement this year, and then maybe next year is when everything. I think there's so much hype behind the Bears and Ben Johnson. I like to call him Benedict Johnson, but I digress. I'm a cranky Lions fan. When doesn't there have to be some patience before the hype, between hype and patience a little bit?
Yeah, I do agree because there's going to be a transition period. And, here's the thought I go back to. Could the Bears win 12 games this year? Yeah, they could. They could do it. I mean, it can happen. It's the NFL. People roar out. They do things that you don't expect. Could Ben Johnson crash out after 2 years? Absolutely. The NFL is all of this. But I think that there's some patience that's required because I always point back to 2018. A lot of people are like, well, why can't the Bears do what they did in 2018? You might remember that in 2017, the Bears had a really good defense. Like that Bears defense was really good in 17. Had their offense been any good, that team, they might have snuck into a wild card spot with John Fox in that last year. But they didn't really have anything else. Do I think the Bears defense is good now? I think it's got the potential to be, especially with Dennis Allen. But are they the dominant force that 17 team was going into 18? I really don't think so. I don't think that. And I don't know if they're going to make a trade here for an edge rusher, which they might do, that's going to make that much of a difference. So I think some patience is required because there's going to be some things that Johnson's going to have to install and expectations that Johnson has that sometimes only get felt out during the regular season. You can do so much in training camp and preseason, but it doesn't get felt out. So in my personal opinion, patience is important. I think progress is what you want to see because if you think about it, the last 2 seasons, maybe in 2023 you had a little bit of progress toward the end. Last year was really just a mess after the Washington game. So that's where I think patience, for me, it's patience, more importantly, progress.
You mentioned the defense for a second. What are you looking for? What are the questions that you have this preseason? I know that the headline is Ben and is Caleb Williams and all that kind of stuff, but what are the other storylines in preseason camp are you going to be keeping your eye on that you're intrigued about?
I'd like to see how the Bears defensive line finally comes together and seeing if they can really generate a truly great pass rush. If you can get Sweat and those interior linemen really going is something interesting to see. I think the most compelling thing for me, how Jaquan Brisker is going to come back, because I think Brisker's a really talented player and really adds a lot to the defense. And he's coming off a very significant concussion, a very serious injury. And you don't know how much that's going to affect him. He's an incredibly talented guy, but we hear concussion now, and there's a lot of worry. And my hope is, first of all, he's healthy. And second of all, if he's able to come back healthy, I think he adds a lot to that defense. So Brisker's going to be someone to watch really early in the season because I think if he can get going, and if the Bears are maybe able to add somebody to their pass rush at some point here during training camp or before the season, those are things I'm going to do. And then, of course, the whole thing, what's Dennis Allen going to bring? What's he going to do that's going to add to this? Those are all things that are interesting. But I don't know, maybe a random one for me is Brisker because he's coming off a serious concussion. Because I think if he's very good, the Bears defense could be really, really good. They could really have a real shutdown safety back there that can make a major difference.
Last one for you, NFL-wise, and I know everybody's giving their predictions and all that kind of stuff. We did our season predictions and stuff, but do you have – and things can change. Things can change with injuries and all those kind of things. But in the NFL – in the NFC North, excuse me, is it the Lions? Is it the Vikings? Is it the Packers? Can the Bears move up? Do you have an order? How do you see it as we sit here, not yet August, and training camp's underway?
Well, the Lions are at the top until somebody knocks them off. They, of course, last year, they've had a lot of, you lose a lot on your coaching staff. You still bring back a lot of really good players, and they've been there and they've been seasoned, and they now have had that opportunity to taste what it's like to be in the playoffs, to be at the top of the NFC. They've tasted defeat and bitter defeat, and losing in the final seconds of the NFC Championship game, losing that game in the closing moments. Being upset at home in the divisional round. So they built some callous, you might say. So in my mind, they're still number one till they knock them off. Then I think you have the Vikings and the Packers who are there. You don't know which one's going to flip, which one's going to go there. And then you have the Bears a bit in limbo. You sense potential, you hope for progress, but you don't know how long that patience is going to be. So in my mind, there's no reason to knock the Lions off the top of the pedestal. You have the Packers and Vikings having made the playoffs in the middle, and then you have the Bears who are much a variable. So that's where I'm at right now. It's the Lions division until someone takes it away from them.
No, and as a Lions fan, 15-2s don't happen very often. They're not going to happen this year. And you mentioned Jaquan Brisker. Like, that's the thing about a lot of these teams, that you almost get a free agent back because you lose a guy for so long. And that's the way it is with Jaquan Brisker. I can see that. I mean, as a Lions fan, Aiden Hutchinson's going to be coming back, and Ali McNeil and Derek Barnes and a lot of those guys that lost last year. Injuries are injuries, but like those are guys that come back that I think makes every team interesting but then, of course, the new injuries happen. happen. Heck, they've already happened to Detroit. Levi Onwuzurike is out for the year with an ACL, and we haven't even played yet. So I want to talk to you about a little college football, Larry, before I let you go. Larry Hawley joining me right now on Off Day with Matt Randazzo. Big Ten Media Day, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I know you've been around and covered Illinois football. Illinois is ranked number 4, the preseason media, because us media are so smart. They put out their preseason poll, and the Fighting Illini, I think it's Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, and then Illinois sits there at 4. For Iowa fans, they're sitting there at 7. That's lofty expectations in an 18-team, really good Big Ten. I think Illinois can be really good. Are you surprised they're at 4? Do they embrace that? Kind of take me through your thoughts when you see that in the poll.
4 is the best case scenario for me because I think, Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, of course, Ohio State at the top. It just, for me, that's the 3. And I think it starts there. Then you have this really big middle pack of Big Ten teams that a lot depends on just what happens. What can Illinois do what IU did last year, which is get off to a fast start and keep going and going and going to the point where they were in the playoff conversation. As long as they didn't lose to anybody but Ohio State, they were going to make the playoff. And that's exactly what they did. And they had a program transformation year. For me, for Illinois, my mind still sits, and I think they've got a lot of great players coming back, those first 4 games, specifically the Duke game on the road and the Indiana game on the road. You win those 2 and the 2 other non-conference games, you're 4-0. Suddenly you go into the stretch with USC, Purdue, and Ohio State. You go 2 or 3 there, you might control your destiny for a playoff spot. Because if they're able to run the table 11-1 and your only losses to Ohio State, you probably are going to the playoff. You might be going to the playoff. If Notre Dame goes undefeated, you're probably going to Notre Dame. That's probably where you're going to go. I almost wonder if that's almost like a thing that happens now. But I think that they have there's part of me that thinks, I always look at the quarterback and Luke Altmaier, if he can get it going, and, if their defense can remain strong. But again, for me, it's all about that. You start 4-0, the world opens for you. What if they go 2-2? Does that mean the season's lost? Absolutely not. Because Illinois doesn't usually have back-to-back good seasons. They can still have a great year. But if you're talking about being in a playoff expectations, it's all about September because you get off to that quick start like they did last year, your whole narrative changes. So it's a really interesting thing. I think Illinois is worthy of the praise. I think they did a lot of good work last year, bring a lot of good people back. They've done well to add to what they have. Bielema, very competent Big Ten coach, has shown that. And there they are. They're number 4. A lot of expectations, but I think it is deserved. And now it'll be up to them to earn it. But really curious about September. Could end up being a critical month.
Yeah, I think when you look at Illinois, especially with all the starters back and you have Luke Holtmeyer and a guy, you don't see that in college football very often. When you have a guy with that amount of experience in a system and wanted other places, which is crazy in college football nowadays, but wanted at other places and stays with and stays committed to and back on. There's so many good stories with it. But you said that schedule's harder than you think, more challenging than some people think early on. You get through that early on, and it could be a really good year. You've been around some Illinois football teams that are yuck. To be sitting here and talking in these conversations and to see what Brett Bielema has done with that team. Just your thoughts of knowing the history, knowing the past. And I always say to people, Brett Bielema makes Illinois relevant, and they hadn't been that in so long. And sometimes it's the gestures he makes at the bowl games, and sometimes it's getting on social media and throwing shade at Harbaugh. Not all any publicity sometimes is good publicity. I just think he does a good job of making Illinois football relevant, and for so long it really wasn't. Your thoughts on what Coach Bielema has done?
Well, he's charismatic, and I think if you look at Illinois football coaches, have they had a lot of charismatic guys? Not really. You look at Lovie Smith was a very stoic character. I think after all the Beckman stuff, Lovie did a good job to bring what I call baseline respectability to the program, which is you do things right, you conduct yourself with class, like you do some good things. Now you bring Bielema in here, and he brings a personality and aura to him. An Illinois football coach, I'd have never really thought of an aura. I mean, Lovie had some of it with the Bears, but it's a different aura, an aura that I think can appeal to the college kid, that can appeal to people who is on social media. And that's something Illinois really hasn't had. And I think Bielema's backed that up, but I think doing a good coaching job, you look at it, 2022, they should have been in the Big Ten championship game. They have a little bit of a slip in 23, which was tough, and it's hard not to make it back to a bowl after what they did. and then you respond and come back with a great 2024. They did a wonderful job there to do that. And I think Bielema has done the correct things of being a charismatic person to appeal to those recruits, doing good things when those players get here, and then making the most out of those players and winning some very big games last year and having some really big moments. You know, we forget about how good that Michigan win looked in January, how great that Michigan win looked in January. You think about the Rutgers game and pulling that game out and how much that kind of changed their whole season. You think of the Nebraska game. That was a really gritty win that they were able to get on the road on a Friday night. So I think Bielema's combination of what I call Big Ten competency. He recruits well and he coaches well, along with his personality, which I think is outgoing, is social, is something new, a breath of life for the Illinois football program, have all helped to make Illinois relevant. And it's really something special to see, especially for people like me who've watched the program for decades, with many of those years being down and many of those years not really being relevant, or just making a bowl game really meant something, where we can even think about the playoff is pretty incredible.
Before I let you go, Larry, you're in the Chicagoland area. You know a lot about Illinois. You've covered Illinois, the Chicago's. Is there how is Chicago when it comes to Illinois and Illinois sports? I know it's Chicago's Big Ten team or whatever, and there's a ton of Notre Dame up there. Iowa's got a good draw in the Chicagoland area. I think Coach Bielema has done a great job recruiting, especially up in Chicago, and getting some good recruits from there as well. Is there an excitement when it comes to Chicagoland and what Illinois is getting ready to do in the Big Ten football season?
I think that there's some buzz. You know, college football up here has moderate buzz. You know, when Illinois played games up here, the attendance has been, well, at times mediocre. You know, at times I went to the Soldier Field game in 2004, in 15 when they played Northwestern, light attendance. That was an Illinois team that had a chance to make a bowl game, and that was a team that had a shot to make a bowl game. That was the Cubitt year, so the year between Lovey and the year after Beckman. You know, they had a chance to make a bowl. I think they had about 27,000 there. 2018, they played South Florida. Not a great crowd, about 16,000. Last year, it was a little bit different because when they played Northwestern, it was Thanksgiving weekend, and it was a very cold day at Wrigley Field. If that's a 45-degree day with Illinois going for a 9-win season, there might have been more people there. So I think that football, there's some buzz to it, but Chicago is a pro town, so it is split. You do have your right. You have your huge Notre Dame fan bases. You've got a good Iowa fan base here as well, along with the other Big Tens. You do have your Wisconsin people here as well. There's a lot of Wisconsin. Because remember now, Wisconsin's been very relevant for about 30 years now, where they've been near the top of the Big Ten, if you think about it, as far as it goes back. So Illinois has its place. Is Illinois football, oh my God, top of mind here? I would say not, to be fair with you. Is there a little bit of a buzz? Yeah, absolutely. That's
awesome. Larry, I love your insight. I always enjoy these conversations, and it's a fun time of year. I'm going to be bugging you a little more because Bear season, it's crazy, but Bear season is going to be here before you know it. And hey, who knows what happens with the Cubs. So as always, tell people you're on social media. Tell people how they can kind of follow you and your insights and what you do.
Sure. I'm on Twitter at Hawley Sports, Hawley Sports, all one word. I'm on Instagram at LHawley80. I'm on TikTok at LHawley80 as well. I do sports of a certain age, which is now viewing sports from the perspective of a middle-aged man. It will be a podcast hopefully soon. And like I said, follow me there. I'm always responsive, so I appreciate any support I can get. And I thank you, Matt, always for the opportunity.
We love it. Make sure you follow Larry, a great follow, especially when it comes to the Chicago sports. Be well, my friend. We'll catch up with you soon.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
All right. And as we mentioned, an exciting time for Chicago sports. The Bears starting here real soon, and the Cubs are good. Enjoy it, Cub fans. It's always exciting to not look ahead to football and be worried about baseball in August and September and maybe further than that. We got more to get to. You're watching Off the Air with Matt Randazzo right here on a Monday in the Quad Cities.
Hey, Quad Cities, what's better than Saturday Night IFL football? Saturday Night IFL football with dollar beers. Join us Saturday, July 26th for Fan Appreciation Night as your Steamwheelers take on Tulsa in the regular season finale. This night's got everything. Hard-hitting action, cold beer for $1, and the wildest crowd in the IFL. Bring your friends, your thirst, and your loudest voice. This one's for the fans. Snag your tickets now at SteamWheelersFootball.com/tickets. Brought to you by Bally's Casino.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Monday in the Quad Cities, a gloomy Monday here in the QC. Thank you guys for joining us. If you're watching us on YouTube, we appreciate that. If you're watching us on X, that's awesome as well. All our podcaster people that will listen to us through the podcast, we appreciate that as well. It's been a fun show. Kyle Huesman with a ton of information, not just on women's basketball, but Big Ten Media Days and the Iowa football season itself. He kind of talked about how he's been doing his behind the lines when it comes behind enemy lines, I think is what he calls it. And a lot of other fan bases and beat writers think they're beating Iowa this year. So great conversation with Kyle Huesman, and then also Larry Hawley. Great to catch up with him about the Bears, about the Cubs, about Illinois. They're ranked 4th in the Big Ten media preseason poll. 4th. It goes Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon, Illinois. So high expectations in Champaign. Iowa comes in at number 7. High expectations in Iowa City as well. It's a damn shame that Iowa and Illinois don't play each other. Kind of annoying. But anyways, I digress. A few things before I let you go today. Coming up on August 17th, we'll be having our View from the West kickoff party at the Other Bar at 5 p.m. in downtown Moline. View from the West, a fantastic high school podcast covering Illinois football on the high school football on the Illinois side of the river. Partnering with them coming up in the near future, forming River Rivals Media. Excited about that. But we're going to do a kickoff show with them coming up on August 17th. High school area coaches will be there. Some good food, some good drinks as well. So make sure you mark that on your calendar. Come join us as we get ready for the high school football season coming up on August 17th. So mark that on your calendar. Tuesday and Wednesday this week, we're having best of shows here. The Randazzo family getting ready to go on vacation. So tomorrow, really excited about this lineup. We'll go back and hear the interviews again from Cooper Koch, Logan Lee, and Sydney Affolter. So it's kind of Iowa Day on the show tomorrow as we go back and look at some of our best interviews we've done in the last month or so when it comes to Iowa athletics. And Cooper Koch, Logan Lee, and Sydney Affolter, 3 of the best. So excited to put that together for you tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, Shauna Green, Clinton native, Illinois head women's basketball coach, joined us a month or so ago. We're going to have that interview as well. The NFL season right around the corner. The mighty Detroit Lions have already opened training camp. Their head strength and conditioning coach is Josh Schuler. He's from here in Muscatine, fantastic human being. We caught up with him recently as well, so you'll have that interview on Wednesday as well. And then Tom Cornelis joined us in studio, and that was a lot of fun. So we're going to go with TC on Wednesday as well. So a couple best of shows coming up, which we're really excited about. Those will be coming your way 10 a.m. on Wednesday, or excuse me, on Tuesday and Wednesday. No shows on Thursday and Friday. Probably no shows early into next week. We'll get back midway next week as we get back from vacation. Wish me the best. I love our vacations. They're a ton of fun. My wife's a rock star. My oldest, Charlie, they plan everything. I don't have to do a lot. I'm not complaining, but going on the road with 4 boys is always interesting. So we're really excited about it, packing and all that kind of fun stuff today. The kids are running around like crazy. So exciting times here in the Randazzo household, to say the least. So hopefully we don't kill each other over the next, whatever we're going. I don't even know how long we're gone. So again, I want to thank our guests for coming in today, or for being on the show again today. And I also want to thank, most importantly, can't do it without our fantastic sponsors each and every day right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo, the Godfather's Pizza, on from the jump, Andy Furman, the best of the best, Rafferty Funeral Home, Hungry Hobo, the Quad City Steamwheelers, who got a huge victory this past week. They're going to be home for the postseason, at least one game. Big game coming up on Saturday. See if we can get home for the rest of the playoffs. They play Tulsa on Saturday. Get down there, support them. Snoops. I had Snoops this weekend, and it's so good. I went and sat by. I had to get some enchiladas from them. And of course, I got some chips and salsa, and it was awesome. It's gone, Snoop. If you're listening, I know you watch. I know you listen. You laughed that it didn't last 12 hours in the Randazzo household. And then mobile party experience, getting ready to start some fun things with Tim O'Neill and company coming up during football season. If you have a tailgate, an event coming up this fall that you want to take to that next level, mobile party experience, you see it in the commercial, is well worth it. So go give them a call, get online, hook up with them. It's well worth it. Mobile party experience. And then hopefully having a few new sponsors joining us in August as well. So it's been good things right now for Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Can't thank you guys enough. Over 6 months of doing this. Really excited about our first football season when it comes to high school football, college football, my beloved Detroit Lions, and I guess the Bears too. So a lot of fun things to get to this fall and winter right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. So thank you to the sponsors, and thank you guys for joining us for a Monday edition of Off the Air. We will see you guys with the best of shows coming up the next couple days. Have a great Monday, Quad Cities.